glad to see the place at this time of the year. In the spring, the gardens are all pink and white and frivolous.
Oh, I think it's just beautiful now.
Trip down was perfect. A little perilous for Katie.
Mrs. Baxter, I can't keep my eyes off that dress. Did you bring that from Kansas City?
Oh, no, I bought this in New York.
Really? Where?
You wouldn't believe
It's a Bonwit Taylor exclusive.
Oh, Bonwit's.
Well, I didn't get it at Bonwit's. Mrs. Burns knew.
I've been admiring your dress, Mrs. Andrews. Italian, isn't it?
Yes. You were just going to tell me.
Oh, well, this is a place where they sell dresses that models have worn. You'd be surprised at the prices.
What surprises me is you having the courage to do a thing like that. We're all so snobbish about clothes. Mrs. Burns, would you take me there sometime?
Mrs. Andrews, you're the most.
Oh, what does that mean?
Oh, that means you're not a bit like Mr. Gifford.
I wonder what's keeping Mrs. Talbot.
Oh, thank you. These are marvelous. Are they hard to make?
No. You take one good cook and put her in the kitchen.
Oh, I'm sorry I'm late, Mrs. Andrews. Actually, I came down early, and Mr. Gifford was kind enough to show me the grounds.
I don't blame him. You're a very pretty young lady. In fact, you're all so young, you make my bones ache.
Oh, I just hope I look as good as you do when I'm your...
Please go on. I don't resent that kind of a compliment. Cream?
No, thank you.
Well, what I meant to say was, I think you're so wonderfully preserved.
Thank you. Oh, dear, did you burn yourself in that beautiful dress? Well, we'll take care of this right away. Mrs. Burns, will you play hostess for a few minutes?
With pleasure.
I get clumsier every year. It's a good thing I'm out here where I can't get at your best furniture.
Come this way.
Isn't it a shame that Katie spilled tea on her dress?
A shame, but not a surprise.
What I meant was, she's upstairs getting chummy with Mr. Gifford's sister.
Should that concern us?
Well, Mrs. Andrews is an important stockholder. She could have a hand in picking the new general manager.
Oh, Mr. Gifford makes his own decisions. Besides, I'm sure we both are aware that we happen to be living in a man's world.
You haven't any children, have you, Mrs. Talbot?
No.
You know, I think if you and Mr. Talbot had children, you might realize that a man like your husband would be working more for his children than for you. You wouldn't mind that because they'd be your children, too, and you'd know you gave them to him. That's why, Mrs. Talbot, it isn't a man's world. It's a woman's world. Have a cookie. Cookie.
Thank you.
Well, in the first place, as your husband becomes more important to his company, he'll have to give it more of his time and attention. That's at your expense, of course. And you must convince him you're perfectly content.
Oh, but I'm used to being alone. You know, Bill travels a lot as the district manager. Then, of course, I have the children. They're growing up.
You wouldn't have so much time for the children. You'd have social obligations. You'd have to be saying nice things you didn't mean to people who didn't believe you. Not at all.
Mr. Gifford is bound to recognize that.
You do love your husband, don't you?
Oh, yes, I do.
That's good. Because the man who gets the job must have a wife who loves him very much.
Everything on this wall was shot by my grandfather. He hunted in the West when the West was still wild. These are things shot by my father. He went to Africa with Roosevelt. That would be Roosevelt the first. In 1909. I think you gentlemen will find this a very interesting collection. These are specimens from all over the world. India, Africa, South America, Australia.
Is this your wall, Mr. Gifford?
No, it's my mother's. Mama had a deadly aim. This is my wall. I've learned to let other people have the thrill of adventure and hardship.
Thought maybe you could use this before you go downstairs.
Thanks.
You've got plenty of time. That's new, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That looks great. You too, of course. Baxter said one thing today that makes sense. He said that a man's job and his home life ought to be separate. One shouldn't interfere with the other. I could make it like that with us, Liz.
Baxter could make it that way. Not you.
Now.
Katie, you're beautiful. Honey, you're absolutely beautiful. What a gown.
But do you suppose I can get Mr. Gifford to unglue his eyes from Mrs. Talbot?
He must have said something.
What?
I said he must have said something.
Oh, same thing he's been saying ever since we got to New York. He likes to watch people squirm. He'd also like to see us all sit up on our hind legs and beg.
Well, he's got to make up his mind soon.
Yeah, well, he's gonna spring the big news tonight, right after dinner.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be you, Jerry.
I don't know, but I can promise you one thing.
Yes?
I won't finish worse than third.
Jerry. Jerry, do you mind if I go down ahead of you? I need a cocktail.
No, go right ahead.